Hey, how's it going? I'm Bree, and thanks for joining me today. This is Stash. Say hello to Stash. That's Moo Moo right there. She can be a little rowdy from time to time. Yeah, they're both cool girls. To share a bit about me, I'm a fourth year at UC Santa Barbara, majoring in aquatic biology and minoring in science communication. I'm interested in fisheries and aquaculture. I like to be active when I can, and I'm a big fan of Hatsune Miku and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Anyway, you're watching one of my videos in my YouTube series on sustainable seafood. I'm doing a whole senior capstone project where I make different genres, like these videos and a website. The whole premise with my capstone project is to get people to eat more sustainable seafood, or at least just thinking about it. That said, today on the menu is seafood. Obviously, seafood is like shrimp, fish, oysters, food from the sea. You're probably thinking like, why the fuck am I asking this silly question? Well, to give a proper answer, it's any form of sea life and freshwater life that humans eat for food. Think of finfish, like salmon and tuna, shellfish, like shrimp and oysters, toss in some cephalopods in there. It's a fancy way of saying like squid and octopus. Don't forget about seaweed. That being said, let me hit y'all with another question. How do we get our seafood? Like, how does it get onto our plates, in our markets, in our restaurants? You may not know this, but we get most of our seafood from fisheries and aquaculture. I'm gonna take a second to tell y'all the difference. Wild capture fisheries typically look like people going out to the sea on these big boats with these big nets, catching a boatload of fish. On the other hand, aquaculture is literally just farming aquatic animals or plants for food, typically in like a controlled environment. These farms can also be in the water and also on land. Pretty simple stuff, but in actuality, it's a lot more complicated than it seems. But I'm gonna be for real, I don't feel like lecturing all on that right now. Why I mention fisheries and aquaculture, or at least how we produce seafood, is because I just wanted to bring your attention to the main issue in seafood production. What I'm talking about is overfishing. For those who aren't familiar what overfishing is, it's when fisheries catch fish faster than they can reproduce to replenish the population. Take tuna for example. You fish all of the big fat tunas from the sea. There's no one left to reproduce. Population dies out. Tuna said. Fun fact, in fisheries, there's this thing called BOFFFF. And look at what my dear friend Emily drew me. Boff Queen. Boff Queen, Boff Queen. Ah! I'm obsessed. Yes, BOFF stands for big, old, fat, fecund female fish. And BOFF is what makes these fish populations thrive. So be nice to BOFF. Maybe don't fish for her, especially if she got eggs. Just felt like sharing something silly. Anyway, overfishing is an actual issue. We just don't see it very often because we're not out there fishing. So it feels like we're very removed from the situation. But I just want to say that we're totally not removed at all. And you must be thinking like, how? Like, I'm not even out on that boat. Well, through the seafood we eat. Yeah, so the type of seafood you eat can directly influence fish populations. With the whole like demand and supply shtick. High demand, low supply. Overfishing can occur when there's high demand for a specific species, like Atlantic cod or Atlantic bluefin tuna. And it can also occur when there's poor management with people that don't really care about the persistence of fish populations. Additionally, there's a thing called climate change. Yes, it's a thing. I can probably make a 20-minute video explaining how it affects fish populations. Don't come at me. There's also habitat destruction from trawls, dragging nets along the ocean floor, accidental bycatch of your favorite marine animals like turtles and dolphin, illegal fishing in marine protected areas. Yeah, producing seafood can be a bit of a shit show sometimes when it's not done with the environment or communities in mind. Oh, but Bree, why don't we stop fishing from the seas, period? Okay, like, I totally understand where you're coming from if you're thinking that way, but maybe you weren't thinking about the shit ton of people who rely on seafood globally. I'm talking about 3 billion people eating seafood as their main source of protein, and you got 60 million people working in the seafood industry making their livelihood. You can't just stop people from getting the food that they need or working just for the sake of the environment. Like, that would be completely unfair to them. Okay, let's pause for a moment. Oh my god. Oh my god, there's a ghost. There's a ghost. Okay, that was weird. Anyway, back to it. So what can we do about this whole overfishing shit show? Well, that's where you, the viewer, can come into the picture. Yes, you can help with overfishing by buying sustainably sourced seafood. Oh my god! What is sustainable seafood, you ask? Well, it's seafood that comes from fisheries or aquaculture farms that prioritize the health of the environment as well as the well-being of their workers. You know, making sure their employees have good working conditions and are also making enough to live. Essentially, sustainable seafood is produced with the environment, economy, and society in mind. Sustainable seafood prevents overfishing by using research-based harvesting limits to make sure that fish populations continue to replenish, like making sure that there's enough BOFFFF in the sea. People who produce sustainable seafood make sure that there's less bycatch, less habitat destruction, and no illegal fishing in protected areas. Okay, so sustainable seafood is cool and all, or at least that's what I hope you're thinking. And if you are, you're probably thinking like, how do I get sustainable seafood? Well, this is the part where most people struggle with because there's just so much that goes into it. Like, let me try to put this into perspective. You take salmon, for example. Lots of people love salmon, and you may not know this, but there's 5 different salmon species that we typically eat: Atlantic, Chinook, Coho, pink, and sockeye. And most people are familiar with Atlantic salmon. Fun fact, all commercially sold Atlantic salmon is farmed due to their wild population collapsing. If you're getting wild caught salmon in the US, you're most likely getting sockeye or Chinook. But yeah, not to get too much in the gills, just understand that not all salmon are the same, including within the same species. Atlantic salmon from one place can be more sustainable from another place, but this honestly depends on how it's raised and harvested. Atlantic salmon grown in land-based recirculating aquaculture system, otherwise known as RAS or RAS, are more sustainable than those grown in open net pen. This is because salmon and RAS can't pollute the nearby water with their shit or fuck up the wild populations if one accidentally escaped. But like, honestly, how the fuck are we supposed to know where and how fish are grown or harvested? Like, did you know that Norway has 13 production areas and we're supposed to avoid eating salmon from production areas 3 and 4? Like, how is my silly American ass supposed to know that? It's not like the packaging from these Norwegian imported salmon have like a Norwegian map indicating which area the salmon is from. All I'm just trying to say is that it is incredibly difficult for people to know which seafood is sustainable or not. And honestly, it shouldn't be this way. You know, that's just due to the complex global supply chain and lack of transparency when labeling, which I myself can't do anything about it because I'm just a wee college student and I'm just trying to find a job after I graduate. That's not to say all hope is lost. Finding sustainable seafood can be relatively easy and affordable. 2 things you can look out for are for these certifications, MSC and ASC. These labels show that the seafood is sustainable through third-party certification, making sure that the seafood meets strict environmental and ethical guidelines. MSC is for wild capture seafood. ASC is for farm seafood. You can also download the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch app, which is such an amazing resource for people to be able to see which seafood is sustainable or not. But yeah, whenever you're going out to buy seafood, just look for the certification logos as an easy, quick way to know what's sustainable. But to get really specific, like, you can pull that damn app up, search for that information, don't be a lazy chud. And if you need more of a reason, just think of it this way. You taking the time to look for sustainably sourced seafood, it's a way for you to help the ocean as well as helping the people getting that fish onto your plate. But if you don't really feel like looking at logos or looking through the app, totally understandable. Easiest way to go about it is just buying directly from local fishers and farmers. Locally sourced seafood reduces carbon footprint, supports local businesses, shortens the supply chain for consumers, no mislabeling, no improper handling, no fishy business. You're getting really fresh and sustainable seafood by going the local route. Anyway, that is my little overview of sustainable seafood. I hope I convinced you to buy sustainable seafood, or at least just thinking more about it. Your decision does matter, and I know the sea life and coastal communities that depend on seafood will appreciate you for choosing sustainably. But yeah, thanks for watching. Catch y'all on the flip side, or should I say, catch y'all on the fin side.